Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased for the final time today, final time this week, to introduce our host, the Irish Minister for Overseas Development and Diaspora, Minister Colm Brophy.
Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. In Ireland, we always judge whether an event is a good event or a bad event by whether or not there were people standing at the back of the room. And I'm glad to see we have people standing at the back of the room, which means we have a good crowd of people. And I know it's been a real busy couple of days. It's, I think, really significant, though, that we have adapted the Dublin Declaration. I would just obviously think that, a big thanks to everybody here for all the work that you've done, for your participation over the last day and a half and in bringing this, but also the participation of so many people over much longer than that. So to really, I suppose, just think for a second of all the panelists, the speakers, all the people who gave it their time, contributed so in such a rich way to those great policy discussions. Big thank you to all of you. Special thanks, I think, go to those who worked in the long, hard drafting of the declaration in the committee. I know, obviously, that many hours were spent poring over that text. We had, as you heard, a contribution earlier on where somebody said it was so great to be involved in a process where everybody got to contribute, everything got worked through, and it wasn't just done in a couple of hours and people were asked to agree to it. So just a big thank there. Obviously, just having had the opportunity over the last 24 plus hours to work with Professor Annette in terms of all your work. It really is, and I know the work of the whole board, but it really is. Thank you so much to the Secretariat, to the officials in the Department of Foreign Affairs, to our friends from Luxembourg. It really has been a great cooperative effort, and thank you all so much. This is a real thank you speech. I've just noticed every line begins with thank you. Obviously we had contributions from outside of Europe to our critical friends, many of whom travelled a long distance, but I know made a really important and worthwhile contribution. There's lots of things, though, that go on in a background or that take place. And I actually worked in this whole area before I entered politics. So it's really important to acknowledge on a day like this, the staff in Dublin Castle, the interpreters, Verb Event Management, who have made all the thing come together for us, the team in the Office of Public Works, all the people who've worked quietly in the background in the last day and a half to make our Congress work and to be so successful. Obviously, to acknowledge and thank Liam, Mr. Global Education. Everybody knows you're the life, heart, soul, and breathe life into every part of the event. So really a big thanks for so much work that you have done. And congratulations to you. And, it is, I think it's something that's worth acknowledging, that is, for me, it's been a great privilege to be here, to be involved, to see so much of the work come to fruition, that nurturing of the sense of independence between our societies, between the success of global education, the crucial part which it's going to take in the future of our planet, in hearing from younger people in terms of how important it is for them and how important that we must get it right, and not just get it right, but also implement it and make sure that the implementation of what we do, the follow-through, gets it absolutely right. So we're going to be concluding here in a moment with the musical performance. Before I do, I want to take a moment. I've acknowledged everybody, but there are two people here within my own department structure, Phelim and Anya, who have done so much work on our side in making this happen. I just want to say a really big thank you to you. So our musical performance to wrap up is from Music Generation. It's part of an initiative from the Irish group U2. Some of you might have heard of them. I think they're fairly successful. And they would probably say, as I said earlier on, that it's a beautiful day. And I think the achievement of the Dublin Declaration is a beautiful day. So with that, I'm going to conclude. Just enjoy the music, enjoy everything. One last thing we're going to ask you to do just before everybody vanishes off into Dublin to enjoy themselves for the rest of the day. We have a group photo which we're going to try and take on the steps directly outside. So I would ask you just to help us with that. And it was a large group, so it'll take a bit of effort, but a big group photo, which we'll do. So thank you all very much. And I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, to my fellow co-chair, to my friend, to Minister Franz Fayot, who will come up and say a few words to you as well. But thank you all very much, and I hope you enjoyed your visit and trip to Dublin. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Colm, for having thanked everybody so elaborately. I will just associate myself to your thanks, which will also allow me not to forget anyone. Thank you, but above and foremost, thank you for hosting this Congress, which is perfectly organized, and thank you above all also for allowing me to co-chair this together with you. It was it was a real pleasure over the past 2 days, and I've got to know you, and I've also have a new friend now, which is here in Ireland, which I think is very important, and for which I'm also very grateful. We have heard a lot. It has been a very interesting conference, but now I think everyone is anxious to get home and get to work, so I'll keep it very short. It has been said by many speakers during these 2 days, we are in times where it is easy to lose hope, given all the many different crises that we are living through and the numerous challenges we are facing. But it is important to keep up to hope and to have a positive outlook, and I think the adoption of this Dublin Declaration is such a great moment of hope. I would like to close with something I read recently in an interview with Amory Lovins, the American scientist who is specialist in energy efficiency and renewable energy, and who has coined the term applied hope, which she explains as a daily practice consisting in doing things to try and create a world that is worth being hoped for, to focus on what you can do and not only talk about it. And he quotes the Welsh author Raymond Williams, who said that being truly radical is to make hope possible. And he ends this quote by saying, I don't think that one can bring people to act by despairing them. I couldn't agree more. And I would like to think that this declaration we are adopting today is one very important seed of this applied hope. If we succeed in implementing in our education systems the values that are comprised in this declaration of social justice, care for the planet in the interest of present and future generations, human rights, the rule of law, peace, inclusion, and respect of diversity, all, of course, with a global outlook, we will lay the foundations for a more sustainable, more tolerant, and more humanistic world. Thank you to all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, fundamentally, this event, this whole process is about the future. So we thought it would be appropriate to ask one of our youth representatives to say a few words as we draw to a close today. And so who better than Raresh Vojku from Obesu, who's going to say a few words on behalf of the youth representatives. Please, Raresh.
So, what a couple of days, right? How's everyone doing? All right? A bit louder, maybe? Yeah, that's more like, woo, good. So, today, history has been made. You know, we've witnessed the adoption of the new Global Education Declaration here in Dublin, of what will come to be known over the next years as the Dublin Declaration. So the reason for us being here is, of course, to adopt the declaration, to network, to get to know each other. But I think I really liked a reoccurring theme in the past couple of days that most people who have spoken have mentioned, which is that we're here to get global education from being good to great and to get it from many to all. And in the past year and a half, I've had the amazing honor of facilitating the work of the youth group leading into this declaration. But by no means am I the voice of young people. Young people don't need a person to be their voice. They have their own voice, and they can very much so express it on their own. So I would just like right now to ask all the young people in the room to stand up, please, and give them a very big round of applause. Please just stand up. And please, no, please stay up. So stand up, young people, yes. I want all of you, every single one of you, to look at us. We're here, we're brave, we're loud, we're eager to work with you, but most importantly, we're not at all afraid to hold you accountable on your commitments and what you promise and what you endorse and commit to implement. So what we ask from you are three things. It's fairly straightforward. First of all, we're asking you for a clear roadmap to implement this declaration. The second you get home, maybe not the very second, but after a bit of time, draw up an action plan in your home country, be it a roadmap or an action plan or any kind of concrete measure with a calendar, with bullet points, however you want to do it, make sure it happens. Please don't make it that we've wasted 2 days, all of us. I mean, that would be quite a shame. Then set up meaningful youth participation structures. So we've talked so much about engaging young people, and it's great that you do it, that you listen to youth representatives and so on, but it needs to be a constant process for it to be meaningful. Set up structures, set up processes that will be ongoing and continuous. And lastly, but definitely not least, be open to making mistakes. You'll screw up, that's very possible, but be open to fixing those mistakes with us. In '97, and this is my last point, Roger Hart published The Ladder of Youth Participation. So it has 8 steps, ranging from the first step where youth are not engaged at all, to youth being engaged and listened to, and lastly, the last step, youth initiates ideas and co-creates them with adults. We have a really long way to go, right? But I'm very, very confident that if we truly work together in good faith, we can get over our fear of heights and really climb this ladder together. Let's do that.
So, finally, ladies and gentlemen, Just before we wrap up, I want to give the floor to two speakers, two people who've been behind so much that is good in global education in Europe, so much of what has been good about the process, so much of what is good in the declaration. So please give a very, very, very big round of applause to Annette Scheunpflug and to Liam Wegimont.
What a wonderful and beautiful day. We have now the Dublin Declaration on Global Education. When I reflect back 3 years ago, when we were beginning to consider how to celebrate the 20 years of GE, we decided that nostalgia and looking back, this can wait. Because it is rather important to look forward and to look more intensively forward. And so the idea of the declaration to 2050 was born by reflection with the GE board, by reflection with the GE secretariat, by reflection with the round table, and then by an intensive process with all of our partners, with all of you. The declaration is, in its content and in its process, unique. It is unique in the process because we have never had, from the side of global education, such a participative process. And it is unique in its content, where we can build on. We have a declaration of hope for a humanistic world, of hope for the planet and the humans. We have a declaration of mutual partnership between countries, between organizations. We have a declaration of the learning of all. We have a declaration of listening to others. And we have a declaration of recognizing the complexity of what we are doing. So, as our colleagues and friends from the youth have been saying, now we need to have the action. Now we have to have roadmap action plans, and we need to start. We will start in 1 minute. Before we start, I would like... Yes.
Not a hint.
So before we start, the minister has already expressed this thanks to all of you. And of course, I would, and we from the complete GE, from the bottom of our heart, we really follow your thanks. And in particular, I would like to mention that the cooperation with the colleagues from Irish Aid, with Faylene, Unza, and Dana, and all the others, was really amazing. Thank you very much for that. The cooperation with the colleagues from Luxembourg, with Virginie, was really helpful and so much supporting. Can you applause to the women as well? Yes. We thank the drafting committee. We thank all of you who have funded GE, so particularly the European Commission, particularly Ireland, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Germany. We thank very much the hosts and the co-host, Ireland and Luxembourg. And can you applause of them? Yes, please. You realize now that I'm, as an academic, not used to make these pauses for applause, because in academia you get not so much applause normally. What would we have done? How would our participative process would have looked like if we would have not those who have facilitated this process? So the CSO from with Patricia Sloga from Concord, the youth from Ras Voisu, from Obesu, the local and regional governments from Salinas Fernandez Platforma, the international organizations from Joe, the global critical friends from La Salette, the academic colleagues from Angel by Doug Bourne, and last but not least, but so important, those who made all this possible, the Gene Roundtable led by the Secretariat and the board. So a big thank you to all of you. What would we do without this wonderful Gene Secretariat? Have you realized this? They are so, and for me, the Gene Secretariat is not only just an organization which is working, but it is as well, for me, an example of cooperation in a globalized world, of people who work together in one office and being placed in Dublin, in Kampala, in Florence, and in a lot of other countries and cities. So I think this is really an example as well for cooperation. Thank you for the Secretariat, and thank you very much for Liam.
Thank you, Annette, and thank you, our host, our co-chair, Jean Board. Thank you, Annette, and thank you all. I'll be as quick as I can, but you'll forgive me if I take 2 or 3 minutes. You know, there's been much said about this being an historic declaration, an historic day. But is it? I wonder. I want to look back momentarily in order to look forward. The Congress and the Declaration built on Maastricht. It was the first declaration of its kind in global education and learning, and in the words of The Clash, a band from my era that many of you may not have heard of, I was there too, and you know what they say? Well, some of it was true. Maastricht was historic, and I have the book to prove it. But it was historic not because it was a first. It was historic for me personally because a week earlier, my eldest daughter, Katrina, was born, and so because she came early, I was able to be there, so thank you, Katrina. But it was historic, not because of what we signed on that day, but because of what we did the day after. What was really important was what we did with the declaration the day after and the day after that. What our Austrian colleagues started doing on their way home in the train, which eventually led to the National Strategy Group for Global Learning in Austria, with colleagues from Comment, ADA, Sodwindagentur, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Education. They took it and they ran with it for over 2 decades. Or our colleagues from Portugal, who used it to inspire the national strategy, subsequent national strategies, or the colleagues from your own minister, and your own officials who used the experience to inform national strategy after national strategy since then. And many of our colleagues in ministries and agencies use Maastricht. So Maastricht was historic, but not because of what happened on the day, but what happened after the day. And we'll prove whether this is an historic day or not today, but tomorrow and the next day. Perhaps starting with national delegations on the way home. I know for us in GE it will start next Monday when our CSO colleagues from FORS in the Czech Republic have kindly asked us under the Czech presidency of the EU to say a few words about the declaration and its implications. It will happen the week after that in the CODEV when we get a chance to talk with our colleagues in the Commission and in the Member States about what this means for us. And I think it will start, as our Slovak colleague mentioned, we hope it will start in Slovakia with the national strategy that will be informed by this. And we've heard time and again from colleagues who will turn this into something really important and historic. So, no, we don't have an action plan or a roadmap. But Paulo Freire once said, we make the road by walking. And I believe, given our work in development of this, that we will turn it into something historic together. So, whether or not the Dublin Declaration turns out to be historic or not is up to us. But the Irish phrase, tus mo latna hibra, a good beginning makes a half of the work, pertains. And in the words of the Irish poet Patrick Kavanagh, to be dead is to stop believing in the masterpieces we're going to create tomorrow. In GE, we look forward to working with you all as we learn together how to turn the Dublin Declaration to something that turns out to be historic. So if you want to do that, and remembering our colleague Henny Helmick, who used to love doing this, I'd ask you all just finally to stand up and reach for the ceiling, if you believe we can do this together. Go on, I dare you. You have to now. And now we would love to invite onto the stage Music Generation. They were initiated by the Music Network, they were co-funded by U2, and now the Ireland Funds and the Department of Education. A brilliant example of music education. Thank you.